Good afternoon. It seems that the best way to have people coming back is to start. So that's what we shall do. Thank you for the courageous already waiting. Thank you for the ones who will be courageous as well and stay with us until the end of this third panel debate on participation. My name is Jurek Kuczkiewicz. I'm a European citizen with at least two nationalities, Belgian and Polish. I'm a journalist for the newspaper Le Soir in Brussels, and I am covering and following as a day-to-day job the European Union, European institutions and European Union policies. And I was quite happy that the lady asked pleaded for the role of, I think it was you, the role of the media. So I'm not a guest speaker, but should you raise the issue again, or shall it be raised, I shall be more than happy to talk about it. But it's not about me. So the full title or issue of the debate, which is projected here, is, as I said, participation, how to build a union that fully involves stakeholders in a transparent decision-making process and encourages civic participation and democratic engagement, meaning that after the two first debates, this is about practice, what is being done and what should be done to enhance participation of the European citizens to the decision making. So since I say you are courageous because it's the last debate of the day, so it's the most difficult, both for us and for you. So pay attention, because I will make you participate not only by having you asking questions, but I shall also ask you questions from time to time, to see if you don't sleep at first, but more seriously to make you participate in I am surrounded by at least two, well, I would say two academics and policy makers, and so I'm the less scientific one, so I shall make unscientific polls, asking you sometimes a question and asking you to simply raise your hand to answer, so to give us an idea what you think about some of the issues that we shall be discussing. We'll do a first test about participation. Who thinks that participation to decision-making, to European decision-making, to the European policy debate, has increased or decreased in the last 5 years in the European Union? So again, who thinks that participation, citizens' participation has improved in the last 5 years? So I shall first ask the ones who think that the participation, the citizens' participation has increased. Then I shall ask who thinks that it has stayed the same. And then the ones who think that participation has decreased. So who thinks that participation in the EU decision-making has increased in the last 5 years? Raise your hands. Okay, well, so increased, that's a very thin minority, I would say. Who thinks that participation has stayed the same? Slightly more. Who thinks that participation in the EU policy debate and decision-making has decreased? So what would you say? It was, I would say that it's mostly in the middle, mostly in the middle. So I shall ask this question to my first panel speaker, who is acting head, Amaya Perez de Albeniz, is acting head of the unit Europe for Citizens. So she's an EU policymaker, that's what it's called, working for the European Commission. So I'm asking you the question of what progress has been made in making, because that's what you are taking care of, what progress has been made, and tell us in a few minutes, not too long, what exists simply, what are the tools, what are the programs, and particularly starting with what, in your opinion, has improved, what's the progress that has been made in this area?
We start with problems. Okay. So I don't know if I have to say if it has been increased or not. In any case, we put instruments to increase. So I would like to talk about. And as I'm in Barcelona, I would like to take the advantage of being here to express myself in Spanish. So, antes de lanzarme en lo que se puede hacer, lo que se debe hacer, lo que se debe de mejorar, yo creo que quizás deberíamos de hablar de los instrumentos que la Comisión ya ha puesto en marcha y en los que trabajamos día a día. Esta mañana han sido nombrados algunos de ellos, evidentemente muy conocidos. Erasmus+, ¿quién no lo conoce? Es uno de los programas que nos ha ayudado a vender mejor la imagen de Europa. Pero tenemos otros instrumentos que son más pequeñitos, pero con gran impacto. Y uno de estos instrumentos es el que se gestiona desde la agencia ejecutiva de Bruselas, que es el programa Europa para los Ciudadanos. Es un programa pequeñito, de gran impacto, como decía, que trata de incitar la participación activa y el compromiso democrático de los ciudadanos a nivel europeo a través de sus diferentes acciones. Algunas no tan conocidas como Erasmus, pero que son también conocidas por nuestros ciudadanos porque participan en los debates que organizan los hermanamientos de ciudades, y yo creo que algunos que están en la sala los conocen. Otros menos conocidos, como los proyectos de la sociedad civil o los de la memoria histórica, que nos llevan al debate de la sala de hoy. Como comentaban esta mañana en algún panel, la participación y el compromiso ciudadano están estrechamente ligados al sentimiento de pertenencia a una entidad, que sea esta local, regional, europea, pero también a un proceso, a un proyecto, en nuestro caso, el proyecto europeo. No obstante, lo hemos visto esta mañana, lo hemos discutido, las instituciones, todas, que no solo las europeas, se encuentran confrontadas a una situación complicada. Tras los ataques de París y Bruselas, en un contexto de crisis financiera, crisis política, a la que se le añade el incremento de la llegada a la Unión Europea de miembros de terceros países, todo esto hace que realmente parezca evidente la importancia, ahora más que nunca, de mantener a los ciudadanos implicados y comprometidos con el proyecto europeo. En ello estamos. El programa Europa para los Ciudadanos es un instrumento realmente importante para este fin, puesto que este programa alienta a los ciudadanos a jugar un papel significativo en el proceso de desarrollo de la Unión Europea, haciéndoles sentir partícipes de este mismo proceso. A través de sus proyectos y de sus iniciativas, los ciudadanos pueden participar y hacer que sus opiniones sean escuchadas. Este debate es uno de los claros ejemplos de lo que financiamos. El programa promueve los valores fundamentales y el conocimiento de la historia compartida de Europa, fomentando así una ciudadanía europea responsable, una participación civil democrática y un sentimiento de pertenencia a la Unión Europea. Evidentemente, todo queda muy bonito, pero el programa tiene sus limitaciones y las estadísticas de las que nos hablaban esta mañana, 6% de ciudadanos que se sienten realmente ciudadanos europeos en primer lugar, así lo demuestran. Pero esas son limitaciones a muchos niveles. Una de ellas financiera. Es un programa con un presupuesto limitado. Estamos hablando de 185 millones 7 años, unos 20 millones aproximadamente por año. Pero a pesar de todas estas limitaciones, he de decir que consigue realmente implicar en debates organizados por las entidades, por las autoridades locales o por distintas organizaciones de la sociedad civil, muchas presentes en esta sala, a ciudadanos que probablemente no lo harían en otro marco. Y muchos de los temas que se discuten están ligados a diferentes políticas europeas que forman parte de su cotidianidad y de sus preocupaciones diarias. Y nosotros estamos a la escucha y adaptamos el programa en función de esas necesidades y de esas preocupaciones que nos señalan en cada uno de los debates que organizamos. Gracias a estos debates hemos podido establecer, junto con la Comisión, las últimas prioridades que han sido definidas y nos damos cuenta que responden a estas preocupaciones. Así, temas como el debate sobre el futuro de Europa, la comprensión y el debate sobre el euroescepticismo, la solidaridad en tiempos de crisis o el combate de la estigmatización de inmigrantes son temas de los que discute en estos momentos en debates que sean no quizás en un ámbito tan importante como este, pero incluso entre municipios muy pequeñitos, y lo hacen alrededor de 1 millón de ciudadanos que participan en los 400 proyectos que financiamos por año. Obviamente, como lo decía al principio, se puede mejorar, tenemos limitaciones y yo creo que este debate de hoy y mañana nos debería de ayudar a encontrar pistas para mejorar y para seguir adelante con este programa y, sobre todo, conseguir implicar a ciudadanos que no están tan comprometidos, porque muchas veces lo que vemos es una especie de barrera. Conseguimos mantener debates con organizaciones de la sociedad civil. Vosotros, organizaciones de la sociedad civil, conseguís implicar a gente que ya está comprometida. Lo más difícil es pasar esa barrera y llegar a esos ciudadanos que están completamente desencantados y no están ni en favor ni en contra, simplemente no están. Y hay que traerlos hacia nosotros. Y espero que este debate nos ayude a encontrar pistas para ello. Gracias.
Thank you, Amaya. I have a question. This is not a poll. It works, yes. This is not a poll this time, but I guess there are people here who are directly participating or acting in activities which are financed or sponsored or which are depending upon programs which Amaya just described. Are there people who are here directly involved in some of these programs? Raise your hands. Interesting. You know, for the ones who are not participating, it's interesting to know. Well, I mean, it's for you we are here, I guess, because the participation, the citizens' participation is supposed to improve thanks to you. So thank you to you, first of all. And secondly, maybe, may I ask someone who is responsible or really has at least a very good oversight on a program he or she is running or participating. May I ask one person to just shortly describe what, because for instance, I don't know what are these programs. This was what Amaya said, was of course very general. So could someone say in a few words what is the program he or she runs or directs or participates in? Can someone? The gentleman here, okay.
Hello, so I'm the director of EGAM, which is the European Grassroots Anti-Racist Movement, and we get support from the Europe for Citizens program through the Remembrance initiative, and we finance a one-year training program from young leaders, so leaders from youth branches from political parties, and from student unions or youth NGOs, NGOs active in human rights and anti-racism, and we train them on the history and memory of the 20th century in Europe. So starting from the Armenian genocide until the 90s in ex-Yugoslavia, sorry. So we have a training program. So we train them on all these events, including the Holocaust, the genocide against the Roma, the genocide in Rwanda as well, and so on and so on. And then we give them some tools to campaign on that. So to do some lobbying campaign, for example, on the case of Lety in Czech Republic, which is a former Roma concentration camp on which today there is a pig farm. So we give them some tools to campaign on that at the European level, so lobbying tools, but also activity tools to how to organize at the local level demonstrations on those issues. So, for example, on raising awareness on the Roma genocide in Europe and so on.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Are there one or two questions directly which can be directed, and I guess some of you people, for the reasons we just said, that you are active in that, are there one or two questions directly for Amaya Perez de Albeniz? Yes, the gentleman there in the middle, thank you.
Guido Orlandini, the Intercultural Leadership School.
Where from, can I ask?
From Rome.
Okay.
I would like to ask if the time has not come, possibly from this conference, to lobby the Council for it to revalue its decision concerning this program. In 2013, when they cut the resources of the Active Citizenship project by 40%, we all accepted that this was done in the name of economy and because resources were no longer available. The program now has roughly 26 million a year for 7 years. But I would like to remember and remind everyone here that we've just given Mr. Erdogan the equivalent of 115 years of the funding of this program to build concentration camps at our borders. The political decision needs to be revalued if we want to reach out to the citizens, because as Asia Kravakova told us earlier, we do rely on citizenship energy, but we cannot make our projects subsist on citizenship energy alone.
Is there another question directed to Mrs. Perez de Albeniz? Not especially. Okay, so I'm sure this is not the place to discuss financing and budget, but still the question. But still there is another broader background in the question, which maybe you can tackle.
Yeah, even for the budget, I would like to say that the adoption of the budget was the decision and the proposal was made at one difficult moment. We were in a very economic crisis period, and it was a little bit difficult to grow the budget of this program, but it was the case for all the program for the European Commission. So all the programs had a decrease of the budget, a cut on the budget. Euro for Citizen is a little program, so it's true that the impact is really most important, and we will work on the next legal basis to have an increase of the budget, or at least to return to the budget we had in the former legal basis.
Thank you, Amaya. Me covering the EU every day, and it goes from refugee crisis to EU budget. I know that, and I'm used to hear that sometimes in times of crisis and financial choices, some financial choices are very often perceived as also political choices, and it's very often, and it doesn't it doesn't only relate to the European Union, but also to the functioning of national states, that choices of this kind were simply financing to programs which are considered or can be considered as very essential or even existential, that cuts to programs always raise dissatisfaction and debate also, because sometimes it can be interpreted also as simply political choices or choices of policies, which is a much proper way of describing it. The gentleman had a question, okay. The gentleman over there.
Hello, I'm Bojan Milosavljević. I'm from Belgrade, Serbia. I'm project coordinator of Strand 2, Networks of Towns, Project VONET. It's a women's network for future of Europe. It's a regional project about women's solidarity from Italy, Slovenia, Croatia, and Serbia. But I want to speak about some efficiency of the program and lump sum system that you have. In lump system that you have, at one case we have 4 to 6 country, and from 25 till 50 participants. And this money, I think 15,000 of euros, yeah. It's, I think it's not enough to have good effectiveness in work, because for this money we have meeting of 2 or 3 days only, and the money that we pay for traveling and organizing everything, and we only have 2 days working and networking the people. I think that we put a lot of money, invest, and don't have enough efficiency. When we have little bit more money, we will have 1 or 2 days enough more to work. And I think we must think about this non-formal communication. It's not only that we have formal meeting and formal communication, it's more happen in this non-formal communication, that we have 1 free day or 1 free afternoon just to communicate between ourselves some experience and to share. And I think we must think about this just for a little bit, to put more money, maybe for 2,000 per one this lump sum, that we will have just more effectiveness in work in these events and activities. I hope that you understand this problem. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I think it's really a very technical question that we can maybe discuss in a bilateral way. The flat rate system, in any case, is something that is sorted out after a big analysis, and in fact, it should finance a percentage of the cost of the project, not 100% of the project. But we can have a discussion on a bilateral way. Yeah.
Okay, so efficiency in making citizens participate in the debate are very material questions, and so that's an example. But it's good not to forget, when we talk about theory, about big ideas, that behind, well, it's everyday work and money and organization, and for sure you will have many opportunities today and tomorrow to further discuss that with all the responsible persons. Now back to a more broader outlook. A question again, but I'm asking you the question. It's a poll. It's an unscientific journalist poll. Who thinks that active expression of dissatisfaction with the European Union or with the European idea, European policies, is one of the most disturbing phenomena today? So who thinks that active expression of dissatisfaction, like Euroscepticism, populism, whatever you call it, is today one of the most disturbing phenomena? Who thinks that it is a very disturbing phenomenon today? The expression of dissatisfaction, Euroscepticism, populism, all this. Who thinks that is very disturbing, very worrisome today? It's timidly, but more and more hands. Okay, so it's. That's right. Yeah, that's that's what politicians do. Repeating questions or repeating affirmations, believing that at the end everybody will believe it. Okay, so who thinks that it's not one of the most important phenomenon today? Euroscepticism, active dissatisfaction, active expression of dissatisfaction. Who thinks that it's not one of the most disturbing elements today? Raise your hands. Well, still a little bit. Still, the question was not clear. Yeah. No. No. Okay. But we won't make a debate about an unscientific poll. So I'm going now to ask the question it was, as I said, it was first to check if you don't sleep, and to make you participate, and us also to know a little bit what you think about the issues that are to be discussed. So now I should refer to Virginie van Ingelkom, who is a researcher in academic and researcher in political science, and who from University of Louvain in Belgium, and who is particularly specializing in the relationship of the citizens with public policies, and she even specialized and wrote a book about indifference. So you have people who are actively or supporting, you have people, as I was asking the question, who are expressing their dissatisfaction, so which you may name Euroscepticism or populism, but there is something which seems to be new, which is newly researched, which is indifference. So, my question to Nathalie van Ingelkom is, Virginie van Ingelkom, is it more dangerous to have people dissatisfied and expressing their against, or is indifference more dangerous?
Okay, so thank you very much. I will perhaps begin by asking to have this graph on the wall, because it's part of the question that was asked to you. Do you think that what is happening now to the EU is more linked to something that is visible, so Euroscepticism, or something that is less active, like indifference or ambivalence? And what you can see in this graph, if you can read anything, the first curve that you have up, it's a curve that people say exactly what you were referring to. People are not for or against European integration. They do not know anymore if it's a good thing or a bad thing. And you see that since the 70s, which is the beginning of the graph, this is really what is happening to Europe. We have more and more citizens who are not anymore able to say if it's good or bad. The second line that you got is a question on indifference. If the EU disappears, what will you be? Will you be indifferent? You will be relieved? You will be very sorry for Europe? And you see that it's also growing until 2004. After that, we don't have anymore the question in the Eurobarometer dataset, perhaps because the answer was not as good as expected, and it's really worried. So the red line is Euroscepticism. It's really an attitude that it's linked to, it's a bad thing. And you see that it's growing, but it's not what is really happening today in Europe. What we see, it's also a large part of the population who cannot say anymore if they are for or against, and they feel a kind of indifference towards European integration. So why should we worry about this indifferent growing part of the population? Exactly because we are speaking about participation, and if you don't have any firm attitude, then you will have no reason to participate either in protesting or in voting behavior. So this is really something that it's not visible every day. It means that it's not what we see in the media. We talk about that. Citizens are just there, and they are less and less really taking care of what is happening on the EU. So the second reason why we should worry it is not only because it's growing over time, it's because the people who are indifferent have some characteristic, some socio-economical characteristics that are also part of what we want. Is that if we want a democracy, if we want an active democracy, we want every citizen to participate and not some kind of citizens. So these citizens are coming from the same kind of socio-economical background as Eurosceptical citizens, but there are many differences. Two positive differences is that they are proud to be European, or they are prouder to be European than Eurosceptic, which means they are not yet so skeptical about what is happening. The second thing is that they are less afraid of losing their nationality. So we spoke about opening and border and all that this morning, and I think that they are still on board on something that could be a European project. Two important aspects that are a little bit more worried is that first, they are really mainly in the younger population. if you are young, you are really more inclined to be neither good nor bad regarding the EU, or to be indifferent. The second thing is that they believe, so it's not that they know less, we spoke about the information gap, they believe they know less about the EU than other citizens. In fact, when you check for real knowledge, they know as much as the others. So in order to understand what is happening to these people, I propose 3 different types of reactions towards European integration. The first one is what we call ambivalence, and this is really, you see the good and the bad, and you cannot decide anymore. And because it's complex, you decide not to imply yourself again in the process. So it can be linked to really concrete aspects, so you don't know if it's good or bad. For example, traveling is good, but I'm not traveling, so I don't know anymore if it's good. But it can be also, and we spoke about the future vision of Europe, it can be between what is actually happening and what you wish for the future, and then you cannot decide if it's going in the right direction. And the third thing is really more, and it will link to the first panel that we got on European identity, is that is a question between ideal Europe and the Europe that you experience, or the Europe that you don't have any experience of. And this is really important, because you can work on the ideal, but you can work also on the concrete experience of people. So the second mechanism that is leading to this attitude, it's what I call fatalism. It's that, okay, we just spoke about that before, there is no alternative. There will be European integration, there will be globalization. So it doesn't make sense for me to be active or anyway. And the second logic of fatalism is also important, because it will be important for my conclusion, is that even politicians cannot do anything. We see that national politicians cannot do, because Europe is deciding, and we spoke already about the role of the media and also the national elite in this discourse. And in fact, it's happening also in the citizens' sphere. And the third one is exteriority, and it's the more important. And we spoke about experience this morning. And from those citizens, it's really outside the world they live in. They can speak about unemployment, they can speak about health, they can speak about education of children, but they don't see how Europe can have an impact on them, even if this is the case. So this exteriority is really important, because it's also linked to a distance towards politics in general. So out of these 3 types, what can we say about what we have already talked about today? First, about the information gap. We spoke about the fact that people perhaps don't know. I strongly disagree with the fact they don't know. What they don't have is experience of Europe. And it's totally different of knowing. It's not because you will be teaching that they will have a concrete position towards European integration. It's really because they do not have an experience or a good experience. The second thing is that we have spoken a lot about European citizens as a whole. But at the same time, when taking some example, we speak about migrants, we speak about Erasmus students. So there is no such a thing as the European citizens. And there are different kinds of citizens with different experience of citizenship in different countries, and linking that to also different kind of public policies. And the last thing, and that's why I wanted to stress the fact that fatalism is something that is happening and that the politician cannot do anything. It's not, the title of this conference is European Citizenship in Times of Crisis. And from the political science point of view, it's just citizenship which is in crisis. And so I think that one thing that we should really took care of is also to link Europe to the national, and to try to understand what is happening at both levels at the same time, because both are really fueling one to the others, and it's not, you cannot understand what is happening to European citizenship without also understanding what is happening to national citizenship. If you don't like politics, then the EU is becoming more and more political, then you will dislike Europe just because you don't like politics as it's done in your national context. So it's really important to link the level also in the way that we understand that. So the book that I was referring to was called Integrating Indifference. It was a call for researchers to go and to see what was happening to these people, but I think it's also a call for you and for me just to try to have these citizens back in the democracy game at the national and at the European level, and we should definitively try to integrate indifferent citizens in the European project as well. Thank you.
So normally I should ask you to ask questions, but we have two researchers, two academics, so, and time is running, so we will put both in a bag, and I shall ask Yves Saint-Omer immediately to say a few words, maybe trying to asking a very simple question, because I know that so Yves Saint-Omer is also a political science researcher and professor at the Paris University, at the Institute of Advanced Studies and University College London. I know, because when we prepared this debate, I know that you are favorable of increasing the use of referendums or referenda in the EU policy making. Could you say a few words about that, so we are getting into more into concrete?
Yes, thank you for the question. Before to answer directly, I would like to share with you an anecdote. In the last years, I have given courses to university students, both in France, in Spain, in Switzerland, in Germany, and I used to ask students, are you satisfied with the political system, and do you trust the political parties? When I ask this to my students in France, well, 100 students like that in political science or sociology, 90 will answer no and no. And perhaps 2 or 3 hands will answer yes for the first question, for the second, nobody. When I ask this to Sciences Po Paris, the result is more or less the same. Only 5 will answer yes, because they would like to become politicians, and they are satisfied with the system. In Spain, it's worse. In Greece, when you ask this, people just laugh. It's so stupid question. What could you? In Germany, it's a bit better for the political system, but for political parties, it's more or less the same. And when I asked these questions to Swiss students, 90% were satisfied with the political system. So I thought they didn't understand the question, and I asked the question again, are you satisfied? Yes, they are satisfied, 90%, but only 50% or a bit less with the political parties. And I think it's not by chance. Switzerland is a country which is a wealthy country, you know this, federalism, part-time politicians, at least at local and regional level, and direct democracy. And all the research shows that this is a decisive part in the trust that Swiss citizens have towards their systems. And I think that we have to think about it. After all, very often it is said that when the people can directly decide, then it's not rational, it's not reasonable. It's better to leave the decision-making to those who know more than the people, what is best for the people. And I think we have to think about it. I mean, when I compare Switzerland to France, I think that basically the decisions which are taken in Switzerland are not worse than those taken in France. For sure, the people can make bad decisions. We have seen this in Switzerland in the last years, but our politicians very often also take some bad decisions. When we look at Europe at this level, the picture is not that good. Direct democracy used to be a specificity of Switzerland, a bit Italy, the West Coast in the US, but in the last 3 decades, direct democracy has become a democratic tool all around the world, which is developing in all the continents, even in Europe, but more at local and regional level. At the EU level, it doesn't exist. The citizen initiative is a fake instrument. It doesn't lead to decision-making process. It is just a consultative process. And it's not by chance, again. Europe has been developed, perhaps not against, but at least with a deep suspicion towards the people. The idea was that the EU should be first the action of an enlightened elite, of higher civil servants and politicians, and that it was not good that the people could directly decide. And when there were referenda, they were organized at national level, France, Ireland, Netherlands, but not at EU level. I think that if we want Europe to become something different, to go beyond this indifference that you described, I think that we have to introduce such democratic tools. For example, take the free trade agreement between Europe and the US at the time being. Why should the last decision be taken only by a mixed commission, intergovernmental bodies, and parliament? Why could not EU citizens decide on such an important issue? We can have a joint referendum at EU level. We could allow citizen initiatives which a number of signatures in a number of countries and so on in order to have this. I think that we cannot go this path anymore if we don't want the beautiful European dream to keep alive. We have to change things, not just small things, but we have really to change the conception of politics at EU level. And direct democracy, I think, is part of it, with dangers, but without the dangers are much more important.
Thank you very much. So since I'm a journalist, I have plenty of questions, but I have to refrain myself, and I shall let you ask questions to both our academics, as I named them, Virginie Van Ingelkom and Yves Saint-Omer. If you don't have questions, I shall ask them, but I'm sure you have some. Who has questions or questionable remarks to ask to either Virginie Van Ingelkom or Yves Saint-Omer? Questions? 1, 2, 3. No questions for the time being. Yes, there is a question. A question. Okay.
Sorry again, I must say, about direct democracy. It's a question before direct democracy, it's about social capacity for direct democracy, because the knowledge to make political rational choices, it's not some natural knowledge, and it's depend on education, because the capacity of society is building through education and also by media through informing process of learning. And it's in some cases, I'm coming from Serbia, and also when we looked in Poland, Hungary and Croatia, you will look that people can be manipulated on voting on direct if we use direct democracy. And listening some lessons about direct democracy in budgeting system, but it's always the question, the people so much love this participation as the value, but before participation, I think it's knowledge. And I don't know about European society. Can we speak about all European society? Because in different countries, you have different capacity for direct democracy. It depends on political education in formal education system. And this is the question, what European Union can do to implement and to increase the level of political education in high school education or secondary school education. Because in Serbia, I know that my friends who are highly educated, the most of people who are highly educated don't understand, don't have political education and don't understand political at all, and don't understand European institution and system. They don't know the 5 main European institutions to count, yeah? And this is, for me, the big problem about direct democracy. Thank you.
So, who wants to Who wants maybe to this? Who wants to answer? Is knowledge a precondition to decision making and decision making by direct democracy?
You know, with your argument, this was the same argument during decades in the 19th and 20th century to say that peasants couldn't vote, should not vote because they were not educated, that women should not vote because they were not educated enough. I think you could make this argument today, for example, to reserve the vote for university students and former university students. I think this is a problem. I think that for sure education is important. For sure an active citizenship requires good information. But you have to understand, I think, democracy in general and direct democracy as a school of democracy. It's not by chance that Switzerland has the best network of newspapers in Europe. It is also because they discuss more lively than in other European countries about a lot of political issues. It doesn't mean that they always choose very rationally. But again, do our politicians now always behave rationally? I don't think so. And so I think that you have to put it a bit differently. For example, we have to limit the use of money in politics in general. This is done for elections or for the financing of political parties. This should also be done for direct democracy. Things like this, equal time in the news and so on. So things like this could improve the knowledge and could improve the political education of the citizenry.
Before I take the few questions there, a short answer also to the question from Jan Robert Susseur, who is president of, I introduce you later, but Civic Platform, European Civic Platform
Forum. I don't know if it will be short. You say a short answer, I'll try, I'll do my best. No, in fact, I think that we have to take in consideration two levels for thinking. What you said, in my experience, is very valuable when we think about activists, about participation, democratic participation for the activist part of society. But I think that we have also to answer to the participation of the people, how they feel concerned by democratic participation. And then I would say that the tools is to vote, the tools is to participate in a local decision. The tool can be very diversified, is definitely, crucially, primarily connected with the delivery. Why the Swiss democracy function? It functions where it delivers. And it happens that it delivers quite well at local level. But when you look even to Switzerland, for some kinds of issues that are of national level, we have very questioning behavior in Switzerland today. So for the massive participation, for the participation of the people, not of the activists, which is today crucial in Europe, how people feel concerned by decision, the connection between the tools and the delivery is probably at the forefront of what we have to discuss. It was short, but not so short.
Short enough for me. So we take a few questions there. There was in the same area. Yes?
Thank you very much. My name is Una Aiken. I'm Chief Executive of Volunteering Matters in the UK and President of Volunteer Europe. A bit closer. And we're in receipt of an operating grant from the Citizens Programme. And as you can probably hear, I'm also a citizen of a country that's had one referendum quite recently and is about to have another one. And I just wanted to reflect on the fact that the Scottish referendum, the Scottish independence referendum, really backs up your point, because it engendered an interest in politics in Scotland, especially among young people, but generally in the population, that I don't think anybody had seen for many, many generations. Equally, the Remain or Leave referendum that we're just about to have in the UK in the next few weeks is doing much the same thing. But my question really was a very simple one, and it was whether you think that the lack of referenda at the EU level is down to lack of political will, or lack of money, or a fear of the kind of expense that goes into not just the application of a referendum, but the cost of the campaigning and so on that comes with it. So just a very simple question. Thank you.
There was two other questions in the same area. Yes, please, let's take it. Yes, say who you are. Yes.
I am Alice Bruni from GEA, and we are running a Strand 2 project. And it's not a question, it's just a quick remark to your question. The moderator, I don't know how to say your surname, sorry. The question that you asked, if we think that European, anti-European or critical activities towards the European Union are a relevant or not relevant issue. And I think it's quite dangerous to always think about critical point of view against or towards the European Union as populism or anti-Europeism. Because, for example, we are running this project promoting dialogue between youngsters who already has citizenship and those who don't have it, like second generation immigrants. And the point is, they have to learn, we all have to learn that the point is not to be pro or against European Union. It's not like on a Facebook page. The only way to foster participation, to make deeper discussions. So I think all these polls, pro or against, are quite dangerous because they leave stage to populism. But to be critical is not just to be against.
Hello, Marta Pon from European Citizen. From the European Citizen, oh, it's okay. From the European Citizen Action Service, I have a general comment. It's not really a question for Virginie. Many thanks for the presentation on Euro indifference. It's actually a concept I was not familiar with, and I would tend to agree with you that sometimes in the Brussels bubble, we tend to speak a lot of Euroscepticism as the main source of problems. And actually, Euroscepticism can be seen as indeed as a form of protest, which is a form actually of civic engagement, whereas indifference is in a way not any kind of position, and it's all the more, or even more worrisome. And my comment would be that you were mentioning about the information gap as one of the main sources of problems with regard to civic engagement. And indeed, in my organization, we have the ECI support center where we provide information to organizations that are interested in launching an ECI, and we recently developed a SWOT analysis analyzing the strengths and weaknesses of the ECIs, and we found out that indeed the lack of knowledge of the ECI as an instrument for participatory democracy, it's a problem, but I would say that this is not the only problem. There's certainly a problem from the information point of view, but also another problem, and where an effort should be made, is to improve the practical use of these tools, because the ECI, for instance, is known for the fact that ECI organizers need to have some legal background to be able to actually launch an ECI that will make it to the first even phase of registration. And actually, in this sense, we actually developed a study which is called ECI Falling at the First Hurdle, where we saw that many ECIs do not make it to the registration phase because the people that want to launch an ECI do not have the knowledge, that is expected to be able to launch it. So I would say that there's clearly an information gap, but also maybe the instruments should be more user-friendly so that people can actually use them and benefit from them. That's it.
Okay, we'll try to answer or comment the comments. The first one was about the lack of referenda. Is it the lack of means, of will, or is it fear? Who wants to tackle this question? Will. Lack of will. Simple answer. Simple answer. As to the remark on the question on how active dissatisfaction is perceived, where is the lady who made this remark? Yes, I must say I fully agree, but what was interesting is you notice that the answers, your answers, the public answers, were not that much, saying that yes, it's the main problem, which is a proof that many people here think like you, and it makes me think of I, as a journalist, when I meet very often and talk to European politicians, I am more and more surprised, and I tell them that, or I ask a question which allows me to express this sentiment, is that very often, particularly on the European level, I mean EU institutions, politicians or leaders, very often present, populists or Eurosceptics as the main enemy, adversary, and I tend to say, but they should not be the enemy. It's the problem or the problems that make people, support or vote for these people that probably should be the enemy. So this is just to say that I fully agree with you, but the question was a rhetorical way of animating the debate. So a big remark and question, because of course that was something I wanted to ask. The European Citizens Initiative, you said it's well, you didn't use the word, but I say in my question, is it a flop? Is it a flop just because the instrument is not yet very efficient, or is it a flop for other reasons? Who could try to answer that European initiative? Or maybe you, as a representative of the guardian of the treaty, maybe you have, and actively working on the tools to foster participation. Maybe you have something to say.
Yeah, it's true that, and the Commission is conscient. Oh, sorry. It's true that, and the Commission is conscient about this difficulty that this initiative is finding because it's difficult to implement it, and that is why the General Secretary is taking just now some measure to put the system in a more friendly way with a new platform that will be created, and I hope that will work and that will give a good result. So that's everything I can say now.
You don't seem to believe that.
No, I mean, you have to give a real power decision making to the people, not making this fake citizen initiative where if you succeed collecting signatures and so on, there will be a discussion. I mean, it's not sufficient.
You mean it doesn't stimulate the debate? That's what you say. Beside the fact that it's not easy. It's not easy to work out to.
No, and if you want to have a better debate, we could make like in Oregon, in the West Coast, in the US, before to organize a votation after the citizen initiatives. They organize a citizen panel composed of ordinary citizens selected by lot, in order to discuss the more rationally possible about the issue, and then they also give their advice to the people before they vote. We could think about a lot of possibilities of making this instrument more, say, deliberative and rational, but we have to give a real decision-making power to the people.
Okay, I shall ask Jan Robert Susser, who is president or vice president of the European Civic Platform, or anyway, responsible VP, whatever, active with the European Civic Platform, also on the board of the French League of Human Rights. So is the frustration, do you think that the frustration about the EU, about the citizenship, is equally spread, you know, on the segments of the society?
No, I don't know if it's spread all over. What is quite sure is that it's a mounting phenomena. So I don't know if it's not yet, if it will never be, but it's worrying. And I think also that it is something that we have to take in consideration when we speak about the subject of our panel, which is how to encourage civic participation, democratic involvement in society. Frustration regarding the functioning and the delivery of our society is gaining pace. This, I think no one, whatever his opinion, will not consider as right today in Europe. I will argue, and here maybe we are not going to be all on the same line, that it is completely connected with the policies which are implemented. Frustrations comes from the gap between policy implemented and how people see what should be the public decision made. And I would argue, yes, that this could translate to virtuous circles, policies and participation going up together, or vicious circle, and obviously that's in what we are, and probably we are for decades now. So also we have sometimes to pay attention to not only words like frustration, disenchantment, or whatever, but where we are on this trend. It makes sense. The second point, maybe to answer your question, second point, is because we are on a road, do we face a European disenchantment or something which combines European and national level disenchantment? If I was in this room 15 years ago, the answer was obvious, it was European. When I am in this room today, I think that for most of us it's obvious that it's at both levels that we have a problem. In a way, we have to think it as a process. It means probably that the time when national politics could throw to the European level disenchantment by policies which were carried in the same manner at national and European level, the experience of the people today makes that this narrative doesn't work the same way in most European countries today. So we are in front of a disaster which is similar at both levels and which has real consequences. First, that probably that to be efficient, we have to tackle the issue that we are tackling with the program as Europe for citizens, with Europe for citizens, etc., also at national level and in an articulated way. If we want to be efficient and to tackle the real problem we are confronted with. And the third thing I would like to say, which is also connected to the two first, is the following. I think we are in a process. We think we are in a process which goes now for 2 and 3 decades. So we have to put a narrative on this process if we want to address it positively. Many narratives can be put. I will propose you one. We are, and it has been said by you, Tina, we are in a situation where the mainstream politicians, for decades now, explained to us that there is no alternative to, as an argument for explaining the policies they are implementing, if we want to tackle properly the effect of globalization. To make it short, they say very often, competition is about targeting our social model. It is about structural reform which are able to help inside the globalization. 20 years of this message. How people, and what was expected, that people understand the message and the policies that are implemented. But that's not what happens. People take the message. Yes, competition. Yes, we are at risk for our social model and so on and so forth, and we have to react. This part of the message they take, but they look for other answers than the policies of the day, than the policies of the 20 years. What they say is the people who feel at risk real or perceived, real or seen in the TV. Huh? We have all the possibilities. They are tempted to follow, for instance, those who give another answer and to say, let's get rid of the populations which are the most in need, the weakest, the different of us. And if we do it, if we throw them out of the system, we can guarantee access to rights for the ones who are going to remain. They are arguing with a narrative which says rights can be secured for some without being granted for all. That is the populism which goes against Europe. We have other populism who still are inclusive, who still think that we are in a common boat, everyone who lives inside the EU. Are we with work or without work? You have also populists who say that security, equality, inclusiveness, that's the difference, are with democracy the way to get out. Mainstream part of the populists say the same. This is the future of Europe. This is the values which are in the treaty. That's why she is not the one who guarantees the treaty. We are the one who guarantees the treaty, because we are in this fight for these 4 words to make them translate to the policies which are implemented. Equality, more equality with the wealth we have in Europe, more solidarity because of the problems that have people, more inclusivity because we share a common future inside our borders, national borders, and as European, and for this we need democracy. These are the 4 words, in my opinion, which make the difference. And these 4 words put in practice by institutions, even not for all the policies, but enough for us, the activists, to say we gained it. It's worth participating. Not only we activists, but also you, the people. You have to vote. We have a chance. You have to participate. There is a reason why. That's the issue. And again, if we split the tools of participation from the policies that represent what is in the treaty, what is in the common goals that we are pursuing as Europe, if we separate it, we are lost. And who is winning? The one who puts inclusivity out of the game. That's the danger, and that's how we have to think, in my opinion. For participation of the people, to encourage, to answer the question.
So who wants to participate? Who has questions to the lady there? Yes, who was from the previous round? Yes, please, here in the middle. First, sorry, the lady here in the middle, whom I forgot in the previous round.
Thank you very much. I think what is somehow missing from this discussion is participation for what? What is to be transformed through the tool of participation? And if we have an aim, while inviting people to participate so we can value the tools, how transformative the tools are. And I have two examples to illustrate the difficulties that maybe we face in Europe. The first is we Italians, we voted for the referendum Acqua Bene Comune, water common good. And I am a close friend to the people who fought for this referendum. And it was a real popular claim for Acqua Bene Comune. The result is that it got lost in the austerity measures and in the bureaucratic processes of transforming this popular will in something that has future. So my observation to you is, if referendum could be just a conventional tool for a moment, but how to, and you have provided already some answers on the long-term perspective of a mobilization within the institutional frame. And the second is participation outside the institutional frame, where the citizens create by themselves forms of belonging, of being part of something. And now there is an American terminology for that, that is popular epidemiology. So how the people learn from the people by acting. For instance, you know, all these movements for the short circuits, consumption in short circuits, and what are the rationale behind this, and how this popular epidemiology could be supported by the institutions, you know, some methodology, some wisdom for the future, etc. So I think to compare, or at least to have a larger view on it, there is, I think, the need to ask participation for what? Because it is frustrating for the people to be constantly invited to participate while they cannot transform anything. And maybe what should be discussed is that there is a gap between the energy and the timing that people put on participating and the bureaucratic timing to put in concrete, you know, action or to transform what the people are willing to transform. And I think this gap somehow should be discussed if we want to build a Europe of participatory citizens that are not frustrated.
Thank you. Other questions? We'll take a few more to bundle them together.
Hello, I'm Łukasz Krajnow from Collegium Civitas in Poland. A lot of voices have been referring to the situation in Poland, and just to respond somehow to this, please don't believe that people in Poland who have a right to vote were somehow manipulated. After 26 years of having a democracy, they were somehow manipulated. Please don't believe it. It's an easy answer, but it's not true. So particularly, I would like to thank Mr. Yves Sintomer, who said also the peasants have the right to vote. Yes, the Poland is, to a large extent, the country of the peasants, because our establishment were slaughtered in 2000 World War. So basically that's it. Mr. Adam Michnik is my personal hero. Actually, I share on Facebook a film when he was beaten by the service of security during the communist times. We had many different versions of what is happening now in Poland. I didn't vote for the current guys, but they were also elected by well-educated people in Poland. They were tricked into buying houses for taking credits for buying houses. So they are slaves of those credits. The previous government worked hand in hand with the banks. Sorry to say.
We're drifting a little bit further from the issue, so we'll take it from there. Okay, thank you. We had another question there. Two even. Yes, the gentleman in the back. Yes. No, first the gentleman there. Yeah.
Ramón Soler de Barcelona. Yo quería preguntarle si la frustración en parte no es debida, antes estaban los ciudadanos que han sido desposeídos de su ciudad, pero hoy lo que piensa mucha gente es que son los políticos que han sido desposeídos de su poder por las economías. La economía da la impresión de decidir, tener más potencia de decisión que los políticos, y eso causa un gran desánimo en el pueblo. Hoy, por ejemplo, este juicio de Luxemburgo, donde tienen la vergüenza o la sinvergüenza de acusar a los que denunciaron la corrupción, causa mucho más pesimismo que todas las demás cosas. Es decir, que en realidad lo que tendríamos que saber es si, por ejemplo, un ayuntamiento no tiene poder para impedir ciertas destrucciones de la ciudad por los comerciantes, nosotros cómo vamos a pensar tener poder en Bruselas para una cosa tan grande como Europa. Es decir, que que el político pueda ser amo de sus decisiones me parece la clave de las soluciones.
Yeah, thank you very much. Mirko Schwärzel, representing the European Volunteer Center, CV. I'm sorry to put in another aspect, and I think it's getting very hard for the panelists to bring this together afterwards, but I think we cannot have this discussion without at least naming or discussing Article 11 of the Treaty of the European Union. So my question would be what you think the perspective is of this article, what we can still get out of it when we talk about participation. I think that the form of representative democracy we're having in the European Union, we have seen already in the debate about a constitution for Europe, that's not enough. And now we're having Article 11, which is the legacy of this debate about participative democracy. Clearly not direct democracy, but something, instruments, forms of consultation, of dialogue that we need apart from representative democracy. But to my opinion, and I think to the opinion of also many of the organizations that are here and that were discussing 2 years ago in the European Years of Citizens, this Article 11 is still far from being really discussed in depth. What does it really mean, what's in this article? What is really a constant and open, a transparent dialogue with stakeholders and civil societies? So where is this debate in your view? We had a roadmap in 2013. We have Civil Society Europe as a new platform. How can we work with this in future?
We'll try to. Who wants to react to answer to any question? Okay, go on.
That is funny because if you ask to the Commission, to the Council, or to the Parliament, what with Article 11, none of them is very keen to answer, and none of them have the full answer. Maybe I could have said it the other way around. No one has the full answer, so no one is keen to answer. For sure, some instruments have been put in place, as the ECI, with a debate now to take stock and to see if it can be improved. And most, I think, of civil society activists are very pessimistic about the outcome of this discussion. We don't think that the institutions are able to decide for something which would be an improvement. But that's only because we are usually pessimistic. Now, even when we are not French, even other. Now, there are other aspects which are probably more difficult even to solve. Because, for instance, there is in one of the paragraphs written that organized civil society should be consulted. And no one today from the three, from Council, from Commission, from Parliament, want to take the responsibility to say how, even before even proposing instruments, which then go through through institutional work. So in fact, no one is taking the responsibility of applying it. And it's written in such a way that it's possible, and that probably we will have to wait for the next treaty or for the goodwill of one of the three components to put it as a real task how we implement it. But to date, in our feeling as civil society, it's not taken as a question that has to be solved. That's a problem in the relation between civil society and European institutions. It's mostly for us activists the problem, because I think that for the people, no one knows that Article 11 exists, and no one has expectation, so no one has frustrations, but we have.
No, just maybe to clarify that, of course, everything is not developed, but some initiative as ACI, maybe if it's in a kind of criticized, okay, I can understand, but the instrument is there, we are trying to improve it. And concerning the consultation, I have to say that before even the proposal of a new legal basis, all the organizations are always consulted by us. We always organized several phases. I mean, during the process of adoption of a legal basis, we consult all the, and it was the case for the adoption of the Euro for Citizens program. So we create a space and we debate and we had a discussion on how to create the new legal basis, and the legal basis we have now is the result of this discussion. So just to clarify that.
We have two questions there. One here, the gentleman here, and then.
Hello, is this my turn? Yes. Yes, it's my turn. Yes, this is Andrés Ochoa. I'm coming from a local municipality in Spain, in the south of Spain, in Andalusia. Well, the first thing that I would like to say is thank you for giving me the opportunity to come here participate in this very interesting meeting to share information and to learn about. We are, in fact, working as a beneficiary of a European for Citizen project, which is devoted to the investigation and the joint investigation from different partners in relationship with the participation for the multi-level governance. Yes, we are interested to know what is the meaning of that, if the people in the local communities, because mainly we are formed by NGOs, but also local municipalities. Well, one of the things that we have seen is that it is a question for all, and mainly maybe for ifs, because it's some part of his speeches is about the kind of the new politicians, the new kind of politicians that we could have as a normal way, you know. And maybe it is taking into account the first message from Adam. I am afraid that maybe when you are saying, yes, we need to do a new policy, well, I am afraid that I am touching some risky thing, no? Because I don't like to be nothing similar to other things in the box of Pandora. I don't like to open the Pandora box, of course. Well, but one thing that we have felt is that the politicians, local politicians, in some way, they need a new understanding of the new situations in terms of how is managed the new participation throughout the tools as internet, for example. I am afraid that the policy is now under traditional models. And the model for politicians now is going to the political parties during a time, as our friend there from Spain, trying to do a policy with the taking into account that they cannot fight against the local market or the lobbies in economy. And the lobbies in economy is not only in a local level, this is also in European level. And it is supposing for us, from Europe for Citizen, that the policy makers, they are just doing a kind of policy during a time, and after that, they are in the market working for their owners, the owners of politicians. It is the kind of thing that maybe we need to go ahead with a new dealing in terms of training policy makers, because one thing that I am sure that for many cases, if here in Barcelona we are invited policy makers as majors, for example, from our country, they were now in the street making around touristic around, not here trying to understand the difficulties for the democracy. It is one of the things, could be a fraud, but it is true. Well, it is a question about how we can do, or this is managed in some way by project, but it is one of our commitment. Well, I pass
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, the gentleman there. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Still coming back to Article 11. For me, it was quite characteristic to see the hesitation the panelists who would respond to this, because this is, whether we like or not, this is an existing issue, namely how to put into practice the rather ambitious, at the same time ambiguous formulation in Article 11. And I think what is important that those who are responsible for the Europe for Citizens program should not take it as a criticism towards the program or how the program is implemented, because the whole issue, in my interpretation, goes well beyond the Europe for Citizens program. It's a general issue, and if we leave it to the lawyers, we could easily discover that, yes, there is a legal basis. The legal basis is in the Lisbon Treaty. We should put it somehow into practice, following the social dialogue case, which there is a separate issue. And in my opinion, in the longer term, the solution is to have an organized framework for civil dialogue. Understand me correctly, I'm not looking for a bureaucratic arrangement, but at the same time, it's very important to have a kind of organized framework which goes well beyond the current Europe for Citizens program, which is only one of the, even if it is important, but one of the fields of actions how to involve citizens and their organizations into the whole decision-making process. And my last comment is on participation. Hopeless to have engaged citizens in dialogue on European level if you are not mastering the skills, the commitment to all these issues on the very local and on the very local level. This is where you master the whole thing of participation. If you do not have a positive experience on the local level, on the regional or national level, you can forget about the whole European engagement, because you will not start to be active on a European level if you do not have the positive experience in your own local, personal environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone? Yes? Okay, Yves Saint-Omer, and we should be thinking about wrapping it up.
First of all, I wanted to say that what I said about direct democracy is not the old story. I was just told by the president of the panel, you just speak about this, so I did. But I think that there are other dimensions, and that the idea is to have a more complex democracy, that we are not democratic enough at the EU level, but also at national level, and that we have to open new channels of participation. And the other thing I would like to say is that now we have, 3 decades of experiments in participatory and deliberative devices, democracy. And something is clear. When participatory or deliberative democracy does not lead to real outputs, either directly or when it's not visible, it doesn't last, because people are bored with this. So after a while, the instrument stops, and just the agenda changes. So if we want really to take seriously Article 11, but also all the tools that we have to make them serious, which means they have to have direct consequences or rapid consequences to the decision, in the decision-making process.
Which rejoins what Jan-Robert Suchet was saying, that it has, democracy, I like what you said, that democracy has to deliver, which is a practical but a very wise, maybe conclusion for this, a way of ending, I wouldn't say a conclusion, but a way of closing this panel debate. Thank you very much for, particularly for your participation of you, at least you participated. That's already something, which is not only the case. And thank you to the panel members for their participation. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening, and have a nice second day of this conference. And we shall have now the conclusion, yes, which is here. The conclusion, which is where? Now immediately? Yes, the conclusion. And who is coming for the conclusion? Okay, you are. Yes, the Deputy Director General is coming for wrapping it up.